Read out. Okay, 1.6, absolute value equation. Now, we're going to do equations first, just like linear equations, and then we did inequalities, compound inequalities. We're going to do the same thing with absolute values. Okay, we have absolute value equations. If you look on the back, we have absolute value, simple inequalities, and then we have compound inequalities. Okay, now, what is absolute value? Think back to your elementary days. I know it's going to be tough. What is the definition of absolute value? No, it's the distance from 0 on a number line. Okay? Now, back when you learned absolute value, anything that comes out of those bars had to be what? Positive, right? What's the reason for that? Gentlemen, what's the reason for that? Why did everything have to be positive when it came out of those absolute value symbols? Okay, those bars. It's because it's a measurement of distance. Okay, if I start at the point 0 and I go 4 units, it has to be a positive number. Even if I go to the left of the 0, I still go a positive distance of 4 units. Right, Tech? It doesn't matter where I end up because I went 4 units each way. It just so happens I ended up at -4. That's why when we drop the symbols for absolute value, we have 2 cases to consider. I'll say it again. In order for us to drop the absolute value symbols, we have 2 cases we have to consider. What's inside can be a -4, right? I can end up at -4, or what's inside can be +4. So whenever you see the absolute value symbols, know you're going to have 2 problems to solve, period. Okay, so like I said, in order to drop our absolute value symbols, you take what's inside. Now, I always like to put my negative on the left-hand side. I'm kind of weird because I think all the other teachers, math teachers, put the negative on the right-hand side. Anyway, I like my negatives on the left-hand side. So I take what's inside, 2x minus 5, what's inside, and I set it equal to the opposite of what's there, -9, or take what's inside, and that I should put the word or there. I take what's inside and set it equal to what's there. And now I have my 2 cases or 2 problems to solve. Again, absolute values, you will always have 2 problems. Right, Alex? All right. I would highly suggest doing these problems separately. I know there's a couple of you that could probably do them together. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. If you have to, draw your dotted line there so you don't mess it up. So I get 2x equals -4. Divide both sides by 2. And I get x equals -2. Or go ahead and solve the other case. Add 5 to both sides. And I get 2x equal 14. Divide both sides by 2. I get x equal 7. So this is my answer. And we'll just do equations today. Okay, so it'll be a pretty simple lesson today. Let me do another simple one. Number 2. Okay, you take what's inside, 7t plus 3 equals, and again, I always put my negative number first. You can do it either way. Or take what's inside, 7t plus 3, set it equal to the opposite of what's there. And I say set it equal to the opposite of what's there because you could have a negative number there, maybe. We'll get into that in just a minute. All right, subtract 3 from both sides. And again, if you need your dotted lines, I'm okay with that. Minus 3, these add up to 0. I get 7t equals negative 7. Divide by 7. And I get t equals negative 1. Or do the same thing with the other side. Subtract 3, 7t equals negative 7. No, there should be positive, right? Yeah. Should be positive 1. Divide by 7. That's a 1. So t going to equal 1/7. Fraction, I would prefer fractions at this time in your mathematical lives. All right. Let's do a couple of fraction ones. How about number 3? Take what's inside, set it equal to the opposite of what's there. 1/2 t minus 4 equals negative 1, or 1/2 t minus 4 equals positive 1. Okay, solve each one. Add 4. I get 1/2 t equals positive 3. What's the easiest way to get rid of a fractional coefficient? Multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal this time happens to be just 2 over 1. So I get t equals 6, or add 4, 1/2 t equals 5, and multiply both sides by 2. I get t equals 10. Okay. Look at number 5. There's a reason why there's asterisk by 5. I will guarantee, how many people we got in here? 25? I will guarantee 1/5 of you will do this. I predict 1/5 of you will do this. Okay. You have to, before you split them up, you have to isolate this absolute value first. Okay? You have to isolate that first. So the first thing you can do before you split it up is subtract 5 from both sides. You must subtract 5 from both sides first. Okay? That gives me my absolute value of 2 minus 4x equals 3 minus 5 is negative 2. Then split it up. And I could make you do all the work and then go back and tell you you didn't need to do all the work. Right, Zach? Look at this for a sec. Remember what the definition of absolute value is? What is it? Distance from 0, right? And what does our distance always have to be? Positive. Can this statement ever be true? No, that's my phone. Can it ever be true? Can whatever I put in for x and then the absolute value of it, can it ever be negative? No. Before I do any of the work, what's going to be my answer? No solution. No. This is such a tricky problem because, first of all, you have to isolate the absolute values, which I predict 20% of you will do wrong because you won't think about it before you start. And then you'll actually work out the problem and get an answer. But there is no answer because you can never get a negative number when you take the absolute value of it. I'll do one more. Number 6. Okay, before I do anything, I have to isolate the absolute values. And in fact, there's a lot going on with this absolute value. What am I going to do first? Yeah, I'm going to add the 3 to both sides. Okay. So I get 5 times the absolute value of 2 minus x equal 15. I still have to get the absolute value by itself, right? Not distribute. Divide by 5. Excellent. I'm going to divide by think of it as almost like a coefficient. Okay? I'm going to divide by 5. So now I finally get 2 minus x equal 3. Now I'm going to split it up. And you don't have to put the arrows there or anything. That's just, I like putting arrows. So I got 2 minus x equals the opposite of what's there. Or 2 minus x equals what's there. Okay, I'm going to divide, or I'm sorry, subtract 2. So I get negative x equals negative 5. And then I'm going to divide by negative 1. I get x equals 5. Or subtract 2. I get negative x equal 1. Divide by negative 1. And I'm going to get x equals negative 1. Questions, comments, concerns? We'll stop with the equals. When we get into the inequalities, there's quite a few things we have to do. It's a little more involved. Questions?